G'day everyone and welcome to episode 7 of Discussion Points. My name is Bodhi and it is a pleasure that you're joining me today in this episode. I would like to welcome my guest for the second time as a result of some bad planning on my part. Alex Bray, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
That's my pleasure, mate. So last time we did this interview, it was actually about a week ago when Breakthrough was still going to be used for the cities that were last weekend. So that's not the case anymore. We've only got Breakpoint from now on, so we're going to shift our discussion much more towards Breakpoint in the coming 15-20 minutes. And what I do want to chat to you about, though, is we still do have to do our general thing where we chat about your results and things like that, as you have top forward and done very well in a number of events now. So what I do want to chat to you about is the Sydney Double first. Could you tell everybody, first of all, for the first day, what deck you were playing, what your final result was after Swiss, and then we'll sort of break it down a little bit more from there.
Yep. I played Seismitoad bats. In the first round, I paired against a Mewtwo Shrine of Memory Psychic Energy deck. I won that. Second matchup, I played against Jeremy Lin, and he had Night March Melodic, and I beat that. Then I played against, I'm pretty sure his name is Ben Mill, I believe. He had Tyrantrum. I managed to win that. And the fourth round, I paired against the gentleman who won the tournament in the end with Sceptile, and surprise, surprise, I lost that. Did you know Sceptile has an ability? Because I didn't. Like, swear to God, I didn't even know Mega Scepter. I knew its attack, didn't know its ability. Then fifth round, I played against, what did I play against in the fifth round? Blake Davies with Ento, and I beat that. And then the last round, I paired against Aaron Vanderkolk, and we ID'd. So my record at the end was 4-1-1. I was second seat at the end of Swiss. And then in the top 8, I paired against Stephen Filipovsky, and he had a Mewtwo Shrine of Memory Psychic Energy deck again, and I beat that. And then in the top 4, I paired against the Mega Sceptile again, and I decided that going to watch a movie with my friends was much more enjoyable than sitting down and getting my ass handed to me by Mega Sceptile, so I forfeited my top 4 match and went and watched Zoolander 2 with Shane and Paul. And I don't regret anything.
I completely agree that it would be more enjoyable to watch Zoolander than watch a Sceptile destroy you.
Just quickly though, like, I'll go give that guy props. When I first heard there was a Mega Sceptile that was 3-0 at the time, I was like, are you kidding me? Because there was like not much Seismitoad. I didn't personally see any other Seismitoad. Well, that is quad Seismitoad. I think there were Manectric Seismitoad bats. I think Samir and his brother were playing that, Robin. So I was like, how in the world is this guy 3-0? And I'm thinking the world's against me. No one's playing Seismitoad, but there's Sceptile that's 3-0. But after I talked to the guy, and when I found out Mega Sceptile's ability that prevented Pokemon abilities affecting it, he said, he was a Sydney local from what I can tell. He said everyone plays bats over here, and I knew it'd be big, so I played this. So after he explained that, I was like, okay. There was 21 bats variants at the first tournament, so that guy meta-called really well. I don't know what he played in Swiss, but if he played any bats, like, that was just, they weren't going to do anything. It literally made, what's that, 4, because I played a 4-4-3 bats line, so it gave me essentially 11 dead cards if it was a Mega, if he managed to get it evolved, which is just ridiculous.
It also prevents 170 damage from their deck as well. 11 dead cards and 170 damage.
Yeah, I kept doing it as well. I first evolved the Golbat, and he was like, no, you can't. And I'm like, what do you mean? And then I read it, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then later on, I started to tilt because it was literally just, I can't do anything. And then once I tried to do it the second time, I was like, I should probably just forfeit. As soon as I misplay like twice, I know I'm on tilt, and I just think to myself, nah, I'm not going to play this.
Oh god, that was a fantastic call on that first day. So I want to draw your attention to something that you mentioned on the first day, and that is 21 bats variants.
Yep.
Was this something that you expected?
I thought a lot of the other good players that I knew would play bats because I expected Night March and heavy numbers at the tournament, which is why I played bats. But at the same time, I wanted to play Seismitoad more than anything, so Seismitoad bats. I didn't think there'd be Seismitoad bats. I was expecting Lucario bats in particular at that tournament, and I still wanted to play bats myself, but I felt I could beat Lucario bats with Seismitoad bats. Mainly because if I'm Quaking Punching, I can still use Super Scoop Up, but they can't use Super Scoop Up. So my damage stays on the board. Their damage. The damage I deal to them stays on the board, but I can just scoop up my Seismitoad.
I found that very, very much similar with the Lucario matchup. Basically, if you cut them off from scoop ups, they lose almost instantly. What does swing that matchup back to a closer than expected matchup is Hawlucha, though.
Yes. Thankfully, I with the thicker bat line of a 4-4-3, having that fourth Golbat made sure I didn't pair any, so it didn't work in practice. But I wanted a fourth Golbat so I could obviously drop 20 on it, Quake and 50 knockout. So having that extra Golbat, I think, would have helped if I'd paired it in the end.
Absolutely. So let's go to day 2 now, and from already essentially doing this interview once, I know that you've switched decks for this day.
Yes.
So will you tell everyone once again your matchups, your record, what deck you were playing, and then we'll dive into it a little bit more like we just did.
Yep. So I knew, especially after the Sceptile one, I was like, okay, there are going to be people that will play Sceptile tomorrow, like guaranteed. I knew that that same guy would play it again. I saw he had a mate. I knew he would play it, and then I was expecting maybe 3 to 4 other people playing it, so I knew I couldn't play Seismitoad bats again. I still wanted to play Seismitoad though, because I still knew Night March would be there. Because despite Night March losing to the Sceptile, I knew the Sceptile had like a Tech Assault Vest, so I still felt people would want to play Night March because I still feel like on paper it had a good matchup against Sceptile. It would be able to hit those numbers. So I thought, okay, I decided to play Seismitoad Empoleon. It's a deck that I'd got second with at my local Perth cities, one of my cities. It still had the capacity to beat Night March, with Empoleon letting Seismitoad deal 70 damage because of Empoleon's effect. For those that don't know, Empoleon has an effect where all my basic Pokemon do an extra 20 damage. And I get it out with Archie's Ace in the Hole. So I still wanted that, but with the Empoleon, since I'm not running bats, I don't have Scoop Up, but I have Energy Denial in place. So that would help me try and beat Sceptile so that it never gets an attack off. And yeah, that was my reasoning behind that, whilst still being able to beat Mewtwo as well with my Energy Denial, Item Lock, as well as Faded Town that was in the deck. So that's why I decided to play that for the second day. The matchups. The first matchup I paired a guy called Angus, and he had Night March. I managed to beat that. The second round, I paired Sam Altman, with his Mega Gardevoir, and I managed to beat that. In situations like that, if I'd played Toadbats again, there's no way I would have been able to beat Sam, I don't think. Like, with no Energy Denial, he would steamroll me. I don't think my damage output would be too low. A simply timed AZ, and I'd be so screwed. So, then the third round, I paired against Alice, and she had Manectric Toadbats. I tied that. I had a really bad game 2, and it just took too long. The thing is, with my deck, it usually doesn't go to game 3, and I just try and win game 1, and then if game 2 does make a finish, I can't let them win it. Then the fourth round, I paired against Jake. I won that only because he misplayed right at the end of game 3. Otherwise, he would have won. So I was really lucky for that. Then the fifth round, I paired Blake again with Ante again. But this time I tied. I didn't win. I would have rather Seismitoad bats against Entei rather than Empoleon because you can still flame screen and buff 30. So with bats it gets around that because his damage counters, not direct damage, but obviously Empoleon's letting me buff, so he still buffs the 30. So he won game 2, so we tied. And then in the last round I paired Anthony Smith with Magnezone, and I managed to win that. Just you can't rare candy into Magnezone, so that was really tough. So I finished on 402 and I ended second seed again. And then in the top 8 I paired John Hayden with, he had Night March Bronze on, not Melodic, so I managed to win that. Then in the top 4 I paired Stephen Filiposki again, but we both had to catch flights. So his flight was at 9:30 and mine was at 9:50, and it was like 8:15 or so, I think. It was around 8 o'clock. So we were sitting there trying to figure out what to do, and I said, well, listen, like, no matter how long you wait here and you try and stall it out until you have to like head to the airport, I can wait 20 minutes longer than you. So he was like, oh, okay. So he ended up scooping to me, but in the end I also scooped my finals, and then we just split a taxi and went over there. The game could have gone either way. Like it's totally dependent. Like on paper, I think I would have had an advantage, but then again, I could have opened like the worst hand possible, and then he would just steamroll me. So it could have gone either way. But yeah, so shout out to Amy. I demand a rematch for the title. Thank you. And yeah, so I ended up second since I forfeited the finals.
I think at this point that we're recording, she sold her championship mat, so maybe you'll have to hunt down the guy that bought it off
She
there.
sold it?
I think so.
Why would she sell it? God, I actually really want... Okay, Amy, newsflash, why wouldn't you message me? Like, I would have bought the fucking mat. Like, swear to God. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't swear.
That's okay. You're all allowed one.
I would have bought the mat, Amy.
We're allowed one, and then we get fired. That's what happens.
Disrespectful, Amy.
It's okay.
I'm actually so cut. I would have actually bought it, legit.
Yeah, me too, to be honest.
No, I get dibs. Second gets dibs.
Yeah, that's it. I came second as well.
Overall, I was very happy with their choices over both days.
Fantastic. And that is what I want to lead into now, and that is the discussion of Seismitoad. But we're going to look forward now, as all events from now on are going to be breakpoint legal. So I've got a number of questions for you, but my first question to sort of get the conversation rolling on this topic is, what do you think Seismitoad is going to gain from breakpoint?
Fighting Fury Belt. Fighting Fury Belt makes Seismitoad have 220 HP. It makes it more difficult for Night March to knock out. It puts it out of range for a couple of other attacks that could deal 180. Stuff like the new Darkrai that's been printed. So the Darkrai will try and get a Muscle Band onto it before I Quaking Punch, because it does base 80. If I'm asleep, it does an extra 80. So Muscle Band, that's 180. So it combos obviously with Hypno and All Night Party. That's kind of what that deck does. So it now allows Seismitoad to get out of range of that as well. Just a whole bunch of different things. It does 10 less damage, so it does 40 now with Quaking Punch rather than 50. But I feel like the extra HP is better than the 10 less damage, in my opinion anyway. But that's because I think Seismitoad's going to be doing different jobs now for this next format.
What do you think Seismitoad's role in this next format is going to be?
I don't think I can play just quad Seismitoad with no other attacker anymore. So I had Seismitoad Bats, where it was still Quaking Punch every turn, and then Seismitoad and Empoleon, Quaking Punch every turn. I don't think I can get away with Quaking Punch every turn anymore. I think it now needs to more than ever get partnered with something like Giratina. I don't think a quad Seismitoad deck will be able to survive in this next format.
Okay, is that because that other decks also gain access to Fighting Fury Belt?
A little bit, yeah. And also, I think you'll see energy denial be even bigger in this next format. And with energy denial, I think I'll have to. You can play like Giratina the Seismitoad with your own energy denial, but with a bunch of different ways to be able to get energy back. So if it was quad Seismitoad, it'd be much harder, I feel like.
I completely agree with you. Alright, so let's keep talking about Seismitoad. Aside from Fighting Fury Belt, do you think that the inclusion of Time Puzzle is going to make its way into almost every Seismitoad list?
I don't think so, no. Not for a Seismitoad deck.
Is there a particular reason why you think that's the case?
When... I haven't been playing this game for a very long time, okay, so I might sound completely up myself, but I'd like to think I've played a lot of different decks now. When I'm playing Seismitoad, I feel like the deck is good. I want to have hand advantage when I'm playing Seismitoad. I want to have all the tech supporters in my hand, or the access to them at least. So I want to be able to either Flare Grunt or Zero Sig or Judge or something like that. That's what I feel like the deck is good with, because it's item denial for your opponent, but on top of that I want to have not so much field advantage, because it's just a Seismitoad and a DCE. That's all you need. I want to have hand advantage. That's where I feel like the deck's powerful. Whereas, because of that hand advantage, I'll most of the time not have to discard too many cards. I won't have to dig too much. So with a card like Fighting Fury Belt, I feel like that suits better for a deck like Night March, where with Night March it's not so much hand advantage, because I see Night March with hands of like 2 cards a lot of the times, you know, because all they need is DCE. They need 1 card, or like Lysandre DCE. So for a deck like that that's just burning their hand, and it burns its hand all the time, I feel like it's better for Time Puzzle where you only need 1 or 2 cards, so you can discard your resources from your hand because you only really needed 1 or 2 cards every turn. That's the sort of logic that I was trying to think of. It's probably completely wrong and I'll get called out for it, but that's why I feel like Time Puzzle I don't think is going to be very good in a deck like Seismitoad. Well, for Seismitoad variants, but rather Night March will be able to abuse it. Because you look at the Night March list, it's just multiple copies of cards that let you draw to get DCE and or Lysandre.
You know what? I completely agree with that sentiment. The thing that I want to ask about next is the reintroduction of Garbodor. Do you think that immediately... We were chatting about this sort of before we started recording, whereas the regionals that we're going into, there's going to be barely any information present or presented to us in the Breakpoint format. Do you think that Garbodor is going to be a popular card in these events?
I'm not sure, because I think past formats is very... There's lots of like abilities that were constant, like lots of passive abilities as well. So you had like Blastoise was around in that format. So once Blastoise was out, the ability was constant. You could use it every turn unless you knocked out Blastoise. There was a bunch of other abilities. It's like Dark Cloak back then. Jeez, it's been a while since I played in that format. Like, if you had Garbodor and you had Seismitoad, you had lasers because it wasn't rotated, so you wanted to shut off like Virizian's passive ability of like no status conditions, stuff like that. Whereas this format, it's like, yeah, Garbodor can stop Shaman, but everyone plays their Shamans on like the first turn anyway. So they play all their Shamans, they get all their draws, they get all their setup, and now it's like, okay, probably not going to play another Shaman for the rest of the game because I already put my 2 down. And if you're playing a third, it's like, do I really want to try and set up a stage 1 and get a tool on it to stop his 1 Shaman left that he might have? The only other abilities that, off the top of my head, I feel like are going to be considered top tier would be stuff like this new Hypno, which I know people will play. Hypno will get used. Whether it's any good or not, that's kind of irrelevant, because like you said, we're going to have the Sydney-Canberra doubles, the first regional that we know of so far, April 9th and 10th. we're not going to have any resources or any results that are going to affect us too much. The Americans are all playing expanded, so you won't have any information there. And the Europeans usually play after us, so they might have maybe like a couple tournaments or something. You can scroll Verbank, but you won't really get much articles, I don't think. So for us Australians, that's going to be like a double tournament where it's just going to be completely theory and just making sure your deck is consistent. So I think Garbodor would only stop stuff like Hypno, maybe Zorok for Russian, but outside of like a heavy Zorok line deck, I don't think Garbodor is going to be as popular, because I don't think it's as good as I think it is. I think just because it's the same Garbodor as last format, it doesn't mean it's going to be not so much its ability being as good, because it's the same card, but its place in the format is not going to be as warranted as the last format. But that's I have actually tested Seismitoad Garbodor, and there's a couple of niche things it can do, but I feel like it's been pretty underwhelming so far.
Okay, we were speaking about disruption a little earlier, so my question comes to you in the form of a disruption supporter that we've received in this format, and it's Delinquent. Do you think that Delinquent will see play in Seismitoad decks?
I think Delinquent is pretty overrated. So I was thinking of combos for Delinquent. So as a supporter, I have to have a stadium, yeah?
Yes, you discard a stadium and then the
yeah.
opponent discards 3 cards.
I remembered the second part. So your opponent, number one, has to have a small hand. So you think, okay, how do I make him have a small hand? I have red card, so it lets me play an item and supporter, because I can't judge a Delinquent, so I can red card Delinquent. Okay, so red card them before, and then you can play Delinquent. Discard their stadium, and make them go down to 3 cards. What happens if they got a Shaman in their hand? Because they get to choose. If Delinquent was randomly selected, it'd be like 10 times better. But they get to choose. So if they got a Sycamore or a Shaman, like I said, then they would just keep that card and discard the rest. Yeah, they could discard important resources, but it's not so much about that. It's about them dead drawing the next turn. So I don't know. Once again, it's one of those things where you'd have to see it in practice, but I think it's a little bit overrated. Yeah, you can Quaking Punch, but then I think Delinquent would see play more so in, like, if someone plays Seismitoad Garbodor, I think that'd be better then. So then that would help trying to do that in the first turn. You try and first turn red card Delinquent, if you can get a Garbodor up. I don't know.
It seems like a very difficult card to make work the more that you think about it, Delinquent. I do not deny that it's a powerful card. Certainly the effect is very strong, but there are situations in which you just can't get it to work.
I think it will only work in Seismitoad decks.
Okay.
I doubt it would be played in anything else but Seismitoad, and if it is Seismitoad, like I said, probably Seismitoad Guard, and I would play heavy counter red card.
Alright, let's talk about one more card that is coming through to perhaps benefit or maybe hinder Seismitoad in the Breakpoint format, and that is the reintroduction of Max Potion. Now I know what you're thinking, that Max Potion is an item card and cannot be used when under the effects of Quaking Punch. But there are times in every Seismitoad player's game where they have one turn that they can't Quaking Punch.
And that's when Seismitoad loses.
Exactly. And attacking with Giratina is another time when these kind of things can occur. Do you think that the reintroduction of Max Potion actually makes it a little harder for Seismitoad in some ways?
Yeah. Not every deck can use Max Pod though, so it's going to be both Max Potion as well as the deck that they're usually able to use it to its best ability. I think decks like Aromatisse will now be able to go again with Max Pod reprinted. I don't know about I don't know about Mega Gardevoir, because if I start Quake and Punching and then I follow through with a Chaos Wheel, although they can max pot, they still can't like Spirit Link. So if they wanted to Mega Evolve, they still have to pass a turn. So I think a better idea would be someone playing like Giratina Fairies, so moving the double dragon around, because now Giratina also gets 210 HP thanks to fighting Fury Belt. So you have Giratina that now deals 110, which still lets it knock out Shaman, which is the important thing, as well as two-shotting nearly everything, denying your opponent special energy, tools, and stadiums, having 210 HP with the ability to max potion itself.
Fantastic.
I think that would be, as if I was playing Seismitoad Giratina, that is something I do not want to play against. I have energy denial, yeah, but it's eventually I'd have to start hitting with Giratina, and that's when it becomes more difficult, because I would just start the max potion.
Alright, and so for our final main discussion of the episode now, I want to chat to you about what you believe are the most impactful cards and decks that are going to come out in Breakpoint. And this is more of sort of a guessing game at the moment, because we really haven't had any events with this, and we sort of haven't had any exposure to any of these cards yet. But if you could predict, for example, what you think might do well in our first set of regionals, what would you say, and what would you say that they were based on the strength of the cards from your perspective?
Night March is still a thing, it'll remain a thing. There'll be that one or two Night March that just like hit all these really great matchups and make cuts, so that will remain a deck, especially with Time Puzzle as well. I think really the Darkrai deck is going to be a thing. It's another thing which I've been watching people in WA play at our locals and see them testing. I feel like it doesn't need a lot to get going, because that's what I try and look for with new decks. Because you've got like Mega Gyarados, which like on paper everything they deal is like 200 damage. You think, oh yeah, that's awesome, like I should play that. But I always look at how many cards, like number of cards, do I need to like get this thing going, get my strategy going, and the Gyarados needs like a shit ton. Like it's 4 energy to deal 200, and it also mills my own deck. I'm not sure if that's worth it, as well as being a Mega. Then it's also got a high retreat, so I need another Pokemon that's another EX with low HP to give a free retreat. And then if I want all these EXs, I'll have to run Hooper. And it's getting really clunky. But the Darkrai, I need one stage 1 with Hypno, 2 attachments, and a stadium with a muscle band, and I can start like dealing 180 consistently. And then I have a backup attacker that runs off DCE of Zoroark as well. That can also free retreat. That gives me an extra out if my stadium goes. Like, that's not a lot. I actually think it's quite good. So I think that'll get played. I've looked at the Garchomp. I'm a bit iffy on Garchomp. I'm not sure if a quad version of the Garchomp deck will work, because I think Vespiquen's more popular than Garchomp. Will be, sorry. And Vespiquen will hang around, especially if guys like me are praising Seismitoad. Vespiquen will remain a thing. And I think Garchomp might be better suited, as originally I thought about putting Garchomp in a Night March list with a single copy of Maxi, and then running basics rather than like melodic. I can just run a Garchomp, so then I can try and take a knockout, especially in stuff like the mirror, and attach an AG to my bench. I thought that was pretty good. That's all I can think of off the top of my head anyway. I'm probably forgetting something.
No, that's okay. If we were to wrap up the impactful cards and decks discussion, I would say that I think we're going to see an incredible increase in Seismitoad for those first 2 regionals. and that they're probably going to drop down a little bit after that. Things like Trevenant as well I think we'll probably see some play based on its popularity at the moment online, and the sort of the hype that's coming around Trevenant at the moment.
I think that deck suffers with like great in theory, but you have to like make it consistent because it's got tools to win, but you just have to get them all out, and that's what I've struggled with. That Dan and I have. So
it loses to itself quite often.
Yeah, it's just like what Trevenant was last format. The whole shtick was to get it turn 1, even like the last format with Wally, and you'd sit there against Trevenant, and you're like playing Night March, then it's like, oh, did you get the turn 1 Wally? No? Oh, okay, so I win. Cool. It's, I don't know, I don't really want a deck that wins or loses in the first turn.
It's also quite a large psychic energy requirement. 2 attachments is kind of slow, even if you do manage to get the Trevenant, because there are cards that can do plenty of damage for just 1 energy attachment.
Yeah, but the break can attack for 1 if I D-Valley.
Oh.
That's the one I want to use. So it's the Psychic and Colours for the break to deal 30 to everything, so I want to run D-Valley in the deck. And then with the normal Trevenant, if you wanted to, I guess, that's the Psychic and 2 Colours, so that is 2 attachments with D-Valley, but I'd rather do 30 to everything.
Completely agree on that one. Alright mate, so I just want to wrap it up nice and quick with a little discussion on regionals. We have spoken that there are a bunch confirmed as well as the double. Are you going to be travelling very much for these regionals?
Yeah.
Are you hoping to get the double, and I'm sure that being nice and close to Adelaide and Melbourne, you'll try hit those ones as well?
I'll definitely do the double, and then after that is Perth, so duh. Then after that I think is Queensland. I'll probably go to Queensland.
Oh mate, you're always welcome here.
I've never lost when I'm at Fast Break. Every Fast Break I've gone to, I've made cut. So I have to keep that voodoo. Then after those 4 tournaments, I'll see where I'm at and then decide after that.
Fantastic, mate. Well, I want to thank you, Alex, for joining me. Unfortunately, it's for the second time in a week and a half, but I really do appreciate you coming back and chatting to me once again about your performances.
Thank you for having me.
That's my pleasure. Once again, guys, my guest, Alexander Bray, fresh off a 2nd place and a top 4 performance over the Sydney double weekend. Alex, good luck for the rest of the season, my friend, and I hope to see you around at some events soon.
Shout out Daniel Collins for giving me lists to play and get free points.
Thank you very much, Dan. Send some lists my way for regionals. Thanks very much.
No.
Well, that's the end of the show then.
Fuck you, they're my list.
Hey, I said you get 1 F-bomb, Alex.
Oh,
we'll edit that one. No, we won't. Alright, guys, this has been Bodie, joined by... No, I'm still going. This has been Bodie, joined by Alexander Bray for Discussion Points. See you guys next time. Bye for now.